What is going on, you guys? It is another episode of the Sci-Fly Zone where the multiverse meets the seventh inning stretch. It's your boys, Trent and CJ, and today's destination is taking us back to the MCU. We're going to be breaking down Wonder Man episodes 1 and 2. These first two episodes really kind of like went in a different direction than I thought they were going to go, and I really love them for that.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. The trailers that we got from this show seemed like it was mostly episodes 1 and 2. We didn't really have much of an idea of what's going to happen later on in the season, but I've been pleasantly surprised so far. I've really been enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to watching more.
Same. So let's get right into episode 1. Very fun. The episode opens with the original Wonder Man movie being played on the theater screen with a young Simon Williams watching it with his father. And Wonder Man does a bit of dialogue that Simon will later on in the episode reference word for word when he goes in for his Wonder Man audition, which I thought was a pretty cool callback.
Yeah, I agree. That it was a nice callback, him referencing the lines there, and I really like this opening scene because it kind of shows like why filmmaking means so much to Simon. Because as we'll see throughout the episodes, he really cares about this. Like he's extremely committed to it. I mean, you kind of have to be if you're going to be like a struggling Hollywood actor. You don't really have a choice but to go all in. But it's nice seeing like him with his dad and like how his relationship with filmmaking started, how we got into it, and I like that we saw some of the visuals of the actual movie because it's very much a product of its time. Like it's very clearly an older movie. You can tell by like the visuals of like the shooting the lasers, and the flying animation too is like very clearly like 70s, 80s, 90s. So it's kind of cool to see how far movies have come. But yeah, I like that little touch that they added in there.
Yeah, me too. 100%. There's also a little Void reference. Obviously not the same Void from Century, or maybe not even the same Void from the TVA. There's a lot of Voids in Marvel now, but just fun wording there. But anyway, after that, we cut to present day and we see Simon in the depths of his process. A lot of this was in the trailer too. And he's quite the overthinker, as we've come to find out. And it's a shame that he wants to be an actor because he would make an excellent writer with how much he's thinking about context, character logic, and story themes and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, he would be a great director or writer or producer or any sense of like behind the scenes stuff. He's a tremendous actor too. We will get into some of the acting scenes that he has, and they're great. But yeah, he is very much an overthinker. He goes very deep into these characters, looking for the history of all of them, like asking what books he needs to read about them, and the people that he's working for are really just not as interested in it as he is. Like it seems like for them it's more so like we just have this character, these are your lines, read them, and he's like, okay, well, why am I reading the lines like this, why am I saying it like this? And it's like kind of too much for them to handle.
Yeah, because he's a very personable guy. He's a nice guy, but on this scene, he's on set for American Horror Story, and also it's just kind of cool that we're starting off with like him in a different role than Wonder Man, so we can just kind of understand him as an actor and a person. But the guy who's helping him on set refers to him as a day player, and that's someone who's only going to be on set for a day, obviously. And if you're only going to be on set for a day and you're not an established actor, you cannot try and control the whole production on the level that Simon is. And honestly, because he's trying to control so much, how does this turn out for Simon, CJ?
It turns out very poorly. It seems like it's going well for a while. He actually has some very good points that he brings up at the start, but the more he thinks about it, he just keeps talking. He keeps bringing up ideas, and the writers and producers end up calling up the higher up above them in charge of all of this, and he loses his role.
That's rough, buddy.
The character just gets completely cut from the show. The scene is done. They say, "Oh, that's a wrap for Simon Williams." Everybody claps, and he didn't even do anything. It's tough, man. He would have been great for that role, but he was maybe too good for them.
Yeah, really unfortunate. He was just trying to make sure, it all makes sense. But the lyrics that follow in the song that plays with him walking off set are just really ironic, just rubbing it in that Simon and his dreams are not coinciding right now.
Yeah, they're gonna put me in the movies. Not this one. They're not putting you in this movie, Simon. Sorry about that, big dog.
I also love that they showed the struggle of, LA traffic after a rough day, him hitting the roof of the car, having to deal with crappy parking. These are all like very relatable things that average people have to go through, and they shot it and performed it really well too, in my opinion.
It was done really well. Yeah, I'm glad that they added that in there because I mean it's Hollywood, LA. There is traffic. You gotta reference that in some way.
Yeah.
And when you're having a bad day, that LA traffic is going to make it even worse, and you're just going to get more frustrated. It's going to bubble up, and that's exactly how Simon's day is going.
Yeah, like half an hour to go 5 miles.
Yeah, exactly.
But Simon shows up at home and he starts wondering what's going on, man. Your girlfriend's trying to move out.
That's rough, buddy.
Sorry. And what's worse is Simon, obviously, because he got cut from the show, he didn't get to film the whole scene. So he comes home way earlier than his now ex-girlfriend anticipated. So she has to explain that she just wanted to sneakily move out to try and avoid the conflict. And
That's rough, buddy.
Yeah, that is tough. That's really tough for him. First thing she says is like, "Oh, you weren't supposed to be off till 5," which is essentially implying, "Oh, I was supposed to be gone by the time you got home." So he kind of caught her red-handed.
yeah. And she's complaining that he won't commit to her. She isn't happy. He doesn't let her in. It's too late to start caring. And he says, I think you just need to book another role. My guy, he, like, words went in one ear, out the other. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're not happy with the way that I'm handling this relationship? What if you got another job? That would make it better, right?
yeah. And it seems like they, like, in a way, like, work together during their process. And now that's kind of being stripped away from him as well. So he's just devastated. She dips. And we get our first look at his powers. And it's really interesting that his anger and his anxiety, like, fuel his powers for better or worse. He's a little dangerous, but I like him.
Yeah, yeah. I like him too. It almost reminded me of I know like he had his powers before this, but it kind of reminded me of when mutants discover their powers, when their like senses are all heightened or like they're stressed out, their blood pressure's high, and that's when they first see their powers. That's kind of how I looked at this in a way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Definitely had that same feel, at least like for us, the audience, seeing
Mhm.
it. But Simon goes to a theater to relax and he runs into our favorite guy, Trevor. Our favorite funny little lad from Iron Man 3 and Shang-Chi, who's here to see a movie. Simon recognizes him, and Trevor's used to people recognizing him apparently at this point, or at least like he's trying to play it off like that. And he's trying to get ahead of all of Simon's questions, and he happens to mention Pizzagate, which is so ballsy of the writers, but I love it.
Yeah, that was wild. I've not heard a Pizzagate reference in years, so that was funny to hear.
Yeah, but yeah, Simon actually knows of Trevor's like other roles in his career and actually respects Trevor as a person, which I really enjoy to see because we see Trevor doesn't really have many friends and Simon actually like treats him like one and respects who he is. I really like their dynamic in the show.
Yeah, I do too. I like the relationship that they have. They seem to start like a pretty genuine, nice back and forth. And Simon is very much a big fan of Trevor Slattery. He almost knows more about Trevor than Trevor knows about Trevor. Like he was telling him about a role that he had playing like Edgar Allan Poe in the '70s, and Trevor was like, "Oh, how was I? But did I do good? What was that like?" Kind of reminded me of when someone was reading Lil Wayne's lyrics back to him, and he was like, "Who? I wrote that."
Better wear latex, because you don't want that latex that I think I'm latex. Oh,
I'm a
you
dog.
said
I'm a
that.
dog.
You said
I'm a
that.
dog. I don't know when I said it or why I said it or where I said it.
Wayne.
I said it though.
Oh my god.
Yeah, dude, that's a perfect comparison. But yeah, we'll see as the show goes on. There's gonna be more layers to their friendship for sure. But they walk out of the movie, and Simon asks Trevor about the audition that Trevor was mentioning over the phone. And Trevor reveals that, like he did in the trailer, that he's auditioning for Wonder Man, and Oscar-winning director Von Kovac is directing it. And Simon immediately bursts into his friend Janelle's office while she's in a meeting, like he's a top dog, like he's Leo, you know what I mean? And which is very ballsy, but you know, Simon always just goes for it, which I like. You know, he wants it so bad and he doesn't really care about what he needs to do to get it done. But Janelle in response is like, hey, you're talented, I get it, but there are also a lot of other talented people who aren't nearly as hard to deal with as you are. So kind of giving him a reality check a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. It's like clearly Simon is extremely talented and really good at his job, but there are other aspects aside from his actual work that he does that makes it more difficult or makes people not want to work with him.
Yeah. And she's like, look, the audition for Wonder Man, that's already done. It like it's almost wrapped up. You can't go. So she leaves, she's got dinner, and leaves him in the office alone, obviously. And he swipes the casting location information, and he also drives very illegally and does some crazy impersonating to try and get himself on the casting list. And CJ said that this whole scene kind of felt like a Kendrick Lamar interlude, and I totally agree. Like the high-paced jazz music, and it felt awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it would totally fit in on a Kendrick album for sure. I love the way that they shot this too, with like the camera on the front of the car and him like swerving through traffic. You see him passing all these cars. I noticed the second time watching that he passes this restaurant called Lucifer's Pizza. I don't know if that is
Oh my god.
I don't know.
We've been talking about saying Mephisto needs to be in the show.
Dude.
He was shown eating pizza in Ironheart.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's right there.
It's right there.
It's right there, dude.
I'm surprised freaking Sacha Baron Cohen wasn't just standing out there handing out samples at this point. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like a taste of the devil. Anyway, so he shows up and he's got to sign a waiver saying that he doesn't have superpowers because it's illegal to have superpowers and to act in Hollywood now. So that's dangerous for him. The show's got to also expand upon how that'll affect Kingo from the Eternals. I know they're scared to touch Eternal stuff, but he's like the biggest superhero actor established in the MCU. Why not show how that affects him a little bit, at least a cameo?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it would just make a lot of sense. I think it would just fit in really well for him to show up at some point, or for them to reference him.
Yeah, I'm curious to, like, I'm excited to see how he's going to have to handle his powers the closer he gets to getting the role, and if he does get the role, and, like, just all that. Like, he clearly doesn't have a good grip on handling his powers right now when he's frustrated or anxious. So, if he does get the role, that's going to be a big thing that he's going to have to handle.
Yeah, absolutely. And if he does end up getting that huge role, there's going to be more frustration and more anxiety to come with it. So it's going to be even harder to control his powers.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of other people wanting to be Wonder Man, so it definitely looks like it's going to be difficult for him to get the part. And we also see the guy who's the Obama impersonator is there too. He got a little cameo, which was funny. But yeah, the stress, like we're mentioning, is making Wonder Man very nervous, and he's getting even some color in his eyes. But luckily, he calms down just in time, and Trevor walks out, and he's also killing the audition. Apparently, everyone loves Trevor. And what I love is Trevor sees Simon is all stressed out, and he's like, hey, you cannot go in there looking like this. We got to get you a new template for how to go into this, because the way you're doing it right now, you're just stressing yourself out, and you're going to look crazy.
Yeah, and Trevor actually does give him some good acting coaching. He does give him some good advice. He seems clearly like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I really love that. And also, like, Simon's going to listen to him because this guy is way more established than he is. So
yeah, 100%.
So Simon finally gets called for him to go into the audition, and of course Trevor kind of forced his hand to follow his way of going about it by withholding the lines that Simon was going to read. So Simon literally has to not improvise, but he has to remember the lines just from his head. He can't look back on the paper because he doesn't have the paper. And because of this, man, Simon kills it. I would give him the role right there.
Yeah, man, he does such a good job. There were some very, very good scenes so far within the show. I mean, just overall in general, but the scenes where Simon is acting in particular have been like so good. Like Yahya Abdul-Mateen is an incredible actor. He's such a good actor that he's good at
acting as an actor,
playing a character who is an actor. Yeah, he's like he could just keep going. He's playing an actor who is playing an actor who's part of a show who was an actor in a different show who's acting as this guy.
A lot of guys. But yeah, the audition goes really well. Obviously, Simon, he has some self-doubt. He doesn't really know if it's going to be good just because he hasn't really been successful. He doesn't have that type of confidence. And he's saying all this to Trevor at a bar that they met up at after the audition. And they're just kind of talking, giving each other life stories. And they actually become like real friends. You know, he says, hey, let's keep in touch. You know, I'll talk to you. And Trevor's like, all right, cool, later. Until we find out Trevor is secretly working for the Department of Damage Control. I was not expecting Trevor to be a double agent that's helping take down Wonder Man. That was not on my playbook, and I love this twist. I love it. And that's how episode 1 ends.
Yeah, man. Yeah, pretty wild ending to the first episode. That twist at the end was so good. The reveal was great. I've been loving Trevor Slattery so far and the relationship that he has with Simon. And it seemed like it was a really genuine, nice relationship. And this just adds a whole nother wrinkle to it. Like, just, he's playing him. He's getting used.
Yep, and it sucks because Simon doesn't have anyone in his life that he can really trust, and now the one guy that he seemingly can trust is manipulating him.
Yeah, he is definitely in a very vulnerable situation right now.
Yep. So episode 2 opens with a flashback, and we open with Trevor telling this nice older lady about his mother and how she's an inspiration to him. And I do like this aspect of his character because I can vouch for this part being totally genuine, and I believe it.
Yeah, there are definitely some genuine aspects to Trevor, and you can tell that when he talks about his mom. That's one of those.
Yeah, it's very cute.
Yeah, it is nice.
But the lady that he is talking to on the plane mentions someone named Joe Pantoliano, who we will later learn replaced and possibly even took Trevor's role on a show that he did in the past that was pretty big. It would have been a really good role for Trevor, but Joe got his role after just 3 episodes, and we will even meet Joe later this episode in a pretty pivotal scene, more or less.
Yeah, and apparently, I admittedly did not know this before. I'm not great on knowing actors or knowing actors' names, but Joe Pantoliano is a real actor, and he is playing himself in the show. I always like when they do that. He's an actor in real life, and he's playing himself an actor in the show too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Trevor lands in the United States and immediately gets detained after being out of the country for 13 years, which 13 years from where the show is present day would put him in 2013, which perfectly lines up with Iron Man 3 on the timeline. And then he was out of the country for Shang-Chi, and then now he's back in 2026 in the United States, and he gets arrested. It's perfect writing. Good job, team.
Yeah, the timeline really works out well.
Yeah, so who is in charge of the whole operation behind detaining Trevor Slattery? Well, Agent Cleary. Surprising here, but not surprising, because he's been making some appearances around the MCU for the last few years now. I mean, he was involved in detaining Spider-Man and his friends. He even knew Nick Fury was off-world at the time. He wanted to apprehend Miss Marvel in her TV show, and now he's trying to detain Wonder Man. Pretty cool use of this character, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like when they have like recurring characters showing up in different shows doing different things, or like having his role that he shows up with other people in different shows. I like the continuity that they have with that.
Yeah, exactly. And also the Department of Damage Control also is featured in the She-Hulk show, and they were holding Abomination in their Supermax prison for the later half of his sentencing. So the Department of Damage Control seems to have some pretty big pull in regards to holding or detaining superpowered individuals.
Yeah, which is bad news for Simon because he is the next target.
Yeah, I wonder if the Department of Damage Control is going to be involved in Spider-Man Brand New Day at all.
Oh, that would be cool. I could see that happening. Yeah. Maybe. I wonder if Wonder Man is going to set up Brand New Day in any way, or if it's just going to be separate.
I feel like it might be separate just because they take place on opposite coasts.
Oh, true. Yeah. That's a good point.
But also the Department of Damage Control, when they were dealing with Miss Marvel, she's on the East Coast. So it doesn't, and also Spider-Man's on the East Coast too. So it doesn't necessarily have to, cancel out the other, but it's just less likely.
Yeah.
Anyway, Trevor has been tasked with befriending Simon Williams and getting evidence that they can use to detain him and hold him in their Supermax prison, which, like I previously mentioned, we saw Abomination held up in. So Janelle calls Simon and is mad that he went behind her back to secure the audition, but still admits that he showed some promise and is asking for another audition tape for an indie film that the casting director for Wonder Man is doing at the same time, because it's kind of like something that they can use to like just show that he's committed to the role, because he kind of has like a controversial history of casting and being on set as an actor, more or less. Not like in the ways that usual Hollywood actors are. He's just a pain in the butt about the story.
Yeah, he's just difficult, which in terms of Hollywood actors, I'll take difficult over some other options.
Yeah. So, but he's excited because not only is he still kind of getting a chance with Wonder Man, he's potentially secured another role with the same casting director. So that's awesome. So initially, he's trying to do the tape alone, by him recording saying the lines to himself, but doing this is really difficult, so he realizes that he needs some help. And while he's trying to figure out the videos, he sees an old video of him and his girlfriend. And I don't know if you've ever watched a video of you and your old girlfriend when you guys were really happy and you're not together anymore, but it works better than any pre-workout. I'll tell you that. That'll get you amped up really quick, and this gets Simon amped up. Like, he gets turned up to 11 here, in my opinion, and he just sonic booms. I don't know. There's an explosion. There's an explosion, and no one in his apartment complex called the cops either somehow, but Simon's pissed.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a rough spot for Simon. I mean, obviously him and his ex were both actors. They would work together. They would help each other on their self tapes. So he's just sitting there sulking, and like, there used to be a bunch of good stuff going on, and now she's gone. And
it's only been a day since she's moved out.
Yeah, it's very fresh, very fresh. If you have a hunch that you might have superpowers that you haven't discovered yet, watch a video of you and your ex when you were really happy. It'll probably get you really pissed, and you might discover those powers.
Yeah, but for legal purposes, that was a joke.
Yes, yeah. Don't actually don't actually do that. It's bad. This is not mental health suggestion.
But we see Agent Cleary and Trevor at a restaurant trying to get more info on Simon, and Cleary reveals to Trevor that Simon is an extraordinary threat, which is wild because we barely know anything as to why they even think that. But he also says that they need evidence fast, which means that they don't have any yet. So how is he an extraordinary threat then? My theory is that his brother in the comics, who actually is known as the Grim Reaper, pretty cool, but his brother despises Simon. So I feel like maybe they got some intel from Simon's brother. Maybe Simon's brother is like low-key a villain lurking in the shadows trying to get revenge on Simon, and he like leaks some information to the Department of Damage Control. Now they're going after him. And we also did see a clip of what looks like Simon breaking stuff with people who could be his family in the past in the trailer. So who knows? Yeah,
that's a fair theory for sure. I could totally see that happening. That'd be a cool way to introduce Simon's brother. We didn't see him in the flashback, so maybe he's like an estranged brother. Maybe they were separated at one point. But yeah, that would be. I think that would make a lot of sense for why they're doing this. Because yeah, it is a little strange that they're so confident that he's such a threat, but they don't have any evidence for it. You know, it's just like they know it in their bones.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is pretty on par for the American government, like just going all gung-ho.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're even looking for evidence. Why don't they just take them?
Yeah, exactly. But while they're talking, Trevor gets a text from Simon saying, "Hey, I need help shooting an audition tape. Can you please come over and help me?" So he says, yeah. But what's unfortunate is before Trevor goes, Agent Cleary says, "Hey, you need to put this ring on his computer, which will give me remote access to the computer so I can access his files to get the evidence that we need to arrest Simon Williams." Trevor goes to help Simon, and initially obviously Trevor assumes they're going to go up to Simon's apartment because Simon's like, "Hey, come over." That usually means come inside. But then Simon meets him downstairs, and now he's like, "Hey, we're not going to my house. It's got bad juju, so we're gonna go rent a studio to shoot at." And the place that they go to, Simon doesn't even read the freaking waiver, and she has to be the one to read the lines on the paper instead of freaking Trevor, and she sucks.
she's bad. She's bad at it. I don't know how she's running this studio, but she doesn't know when it's her line. She completely questions and breaks down one phrase in one line.
And tell Simon to pick it up.
Yeah, tell him to pick it up. Like,
yeah, they did 2 takes, and then they're like, "You know what? We're fine. We're gonna go shoot somewhere else."
You know, I think it makes sense that they didn't have to wait for anybody else to do their self tapes because nobody's going to that studio.
That's a really good point. But they leave, and they're going to Trevor's apartment. I don't know how Trevor still has a place. My girlfriend is theorizing that the Department of Damage Control is funding that place, or like has some type of access or ownership to it, because how could Trevor afford it after, you know, being gone out of the, I don't know. Anyway, it looks really lived in, so I mean, it really could be his apartment.
It could be, yeah, but I mean, it also could very well be like designed that way as part of the story.
Front.
Yeah, yeah.
So Simon glazes Trevor some more, which is really nice of him, and it only makes it like more devastating that like Trevor is now like secretly plotting against him. But like as the episode goes on, it definitely feels like Trevor's feeling a lot more guilt about doing this to Simon because they grow closer over the episode.
Yeah, Simon kind of starts to win over Trevor, and like they actually do start to have like a genuine nice thing going on. And Trevor does have he is a little bit conflicted. Obviously, he has a job to do, and it's in his best interest because he wouldn't be going back to prison. But he's also building this nice relationship with this guy that he cares about, and he has to like go behind his back and do all these things.
Yeah, which obviously would be something the government would do.
Yeah, very in line.
Yeah, which, yes, I understand Trevor didn't finish serving his sentence for being the puppet guy as the Mandarin, but like it's been so long and he's a nice guy now. He's a lad. He just wants to act.
Yeah, he's just one of the boys.
Yeah, but Trevor's neighbor is being really loud with music and whatnot. So now Trevor's like, you know what if we went to Joe Pantoliano's house? Which maybe Trevor thinks they'll turn a new leaf or something, because remember, Joe was the one that took Trevor's breakout role, allegedly.
Yeah. So there's some tension between those two for sure. Probably some animosity on Trevor's side. So yeah, interesting that he decides that house of all to go to.
Bruh, look at this dude. Wait till you see the. No. Look at the top of his head.
Yeah, although, man, that's a nice house.
It is a nice house. I don't blame him. I'd want to be in that house as much as I could too.
Yeah,
like right on the beach.
Yeah, Simon put it best. That's a lot of marble.
It is a lot of marble. Yeah, he's doing well for himself.
Yeah, and Joe initially comes off as like a really sweet guy who has more money than he knows what to do with, but he's still trying to be like a nice guy. But then he like over time he says some things that are like pretty condescending and rude to Trevor, and he even like mocks Trevor's looks and the way he carries himself and even the craft of acting entirely. And this causes Simon to just, kind of crack and be like, you know what? I'm done trying to glaze this, like, obviously very established actor. You're an asshole, and you're mean to Trevor, and you don't know crap about what you're talking about. And I really love that Simon, like, took that risk, because obviously, being a struggling actor, it would be very scary to, like, walk up to someone who's, like, been in the industry for many decades and has seen, obviously, a bunch of success, and to just tell them off.
Yeah, it was a ballsy move for sure. But I mean, I respect him for it. He was standing up for his friend, and yeah, Joey Pants has a lot more power and a lot more pull than Simon does in this situation. So yeah, he was that really says a lot that he was standing up for his friend, and it like makes the relationship between him and Trevor even more complex, because like he clearly cares so much about Trevor that he's standing up to this other powerful guy and like standing up for Trevor. But Trevor has this mission that he's been sent on to go behind Simon's back and turn him into the DDC. So that causes even more confliction with Trevor, because he's like, how am I supposed to betray this guy who's standing up for me right now and really cares about me? It's tough, man.
Yeah, but the writers like put themselves in a really, really cool position though, like with this whole thing going on. I really like it, because at some point as a viewer, you're just like, when is the facade going to break away? Like, when is the truth gonna come out, and when is, forgive my language, when is shit gonna hit the fan?
Yes, yeah, and it's going to eventually in this season. And I'm curious to see which way Trevor goes. Is he gonna turn on the DDC? Is he gonna support Simon, or is he gonna carry out his job?
I think he'll carry out his job, but eventually still work with Simon.
Yeah, that would make sense. I would like that.
Yeah, I would too. So now they leave because Joe's a dickhead. And after all this trouble, Simon now feels comfortable letting Trevor in his apartment despite the mess that he made earlier in the episode. So now they're shooting the scene with Trevor's help, and it goes really well because they're both really good actors, and it just goes really well. It's a good tape, and Trevor tells Simon to send it in. So send it in. It's a good scene. But then the computer's left alone, and Trevor suffers a bit of cognitive dissonance before obviously putting the ring on the computer, and we can see it immediately starts doing its job. And immediately after he puts the ring on, he turns around and stares at the wall covered with the sheet. And at the same time, Simon's asking, hey, should we order a pizza? And Trevor's playing it cool, but he cannot help himself but to check the wall out for himself. And wow, we see some of the destruction on display. And like, it looks like the wall was like smashed and also kind of melted at the same time. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was, the effect that he had on this wall was kind of insane. It looks like there's a point of impact. But yeah, everything around it is like melted. It's just completely ruined. Yeah, not a good look for Simon, because now Trevor basically has exactly what they were looking for. That is the evidence that he has powers.
Yeah, at least at bare minimum, probable cause.
Yeah.
And Simon sees Trevor, notices, and Trevor is smart as hell and plays it super cool. He's like, so we're doing pepperoni, right? We're doing pepperoni. He's like, yeah, we'll do pepperoni. He gets Simon to walk away just in time to like for him to not notice that the computer is doing all the descrambling stuff, and the Department of Damage Control gets access to the computer, and that is the end of the episode.
Yeah, man. That last scene was a tense scene. That was, I mean, Trevor finding out about the powers, Simon like being confronted with it essentially. You have that, you don't know who's gonna say what. You don't know if this is gonna be when Slattery like turns on him or turns him in. All while you can still see the computer scrambling, and while the DDC is in control of it. It was yeah, this was that it was intense. And I like that they kind of just like pushed it under the rug and didn't even say anything about the wall. I thought that was a nice ending to the episode. But yeah, man, I've been really enjoying this show so far.
Yeah, man, me too. It's just crazy. I'm really excited to see where it's gonna go, because I think it's gonna go in a really awesome direction. And the next episode, covering episodes 3 and 4, will be out in just a few days, y'all. Do not worry, we will get it out. We will cover it as we will for the whole season. So please stay tuned for that. And if there's any other topics that you would like us to cover, just leave it down in the comments and we would love to do it. And thank you if you made it this far. Please drop a like, hit that sub button, and we hope to see you on the next episode. Peace.